fangen schon mal vorher an, weil Jeff aus den Niederlanden ist IT-Consultant und er ist auch Powershell MVP. Und wir haben uns eigentlich das erste Mal letztes Jahr in Amsterdam auf dem Powershell Summit so richtig kennengelernt und getroffen und sind da auch ins Gespräch gekommen. Er wird ja heute was über Active Directory Healthcheck sagen. Und ich will hier mal das zeigen, und so ist er auf mich zugekommen, hat gesagt, ich habe eine Blogseite, ich möchte gerne ein Interview machen. Lass uns doch mal darüber sprechen, und ich werde das nicht lange laufen lassen, mal sehen, ob es klappt. Aber es gab da so eine lustige Unterbrechung. Mal sehen, ob es überhaupt funktioniert. No sound.
Sound. Viel zu leise.
Try again. Ohne Sound ist es zwar auch ganz interessant und lustig, aber nicht doppelt. Es ist doppelt so lustig mit Sound.
Why not use an IDE?
You mean a separate application?
Like shaping and actually if you would.
Okay, well, the problem was, we just doing an interview. Hi, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, so we just walked in. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the primary difference. Oh, wait.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I can edit it.
Well, the coffee is important. So there's nothing more important than a coffee in the morning. Anyway, one of the reasons was, I was doing that before, with Partial Plus, which was a separate application. But then people said, we cannot install things. We are at the company side, we need to take what's there. And so it's a perfect situation. We have an out-of-the-box IC, which is great. It's very good. I love it as a foundation. It's fast. It's lightweight. And then it's in the end. It's to have the elements like privileges. You don't need to touch the machine. You load it as a function from your stick. So that's the basic idea.
So I need to film. So I see steroids as an awesome tool.
Wow.
Check it out. So it was fantastic. You heard it from the mouth.
So, also das ist ungefähr das, was so spontan passiert, wie gestern Abend ja auch, als wir mit Bruce zusammenstanden und so weiter. Da haben wir uns kennengelernt, und jetzt freue ich mich sehr darauf, dass er sein Toolkit vorstellen wird, ein bisschen was dazu erzählen wird, wie man AD Live-Check machen kann, und übergebe damit ja direkt an dich. Ne? Vielen Dank.
I don't have a clue what he just said. My Deutsch is nicht that good. Oh. Yeah. So, last year I contacted Tobias, that Powershell conference you do, is it also for English-speaking speakers? And yeah, last year it wasn't yet. So this year, yes, I'm on. So, my name is Jeff Wouters. I'm a learned alcoholic, so a few masters, one master now, the other one is in progress. So, computer science, business management and psychology, like all over the place. An MVP in Windows PowerShell, freelance consultant. You can hire me, but I don't like to travel much. And I founded the Powershell user group in Holland, together with PFT from Microsoft. And he tried to found one before, but the community wasn't ready yet. Like Powershell V1 just came out, like half a year. And everybody was like, what's that Powershell thing? Me included, by the way. So I saw PowerShell version 1, and I was like, I can do way more with VBA scripting. What the is this? So I never looked back until the tech days, Microsoft Tech Days in 2008. I believe, where Don Jones was speaking about PowerShell remoting, very powerful stuff, and AD management through PowerShell. And the last session actually convinced me to look at PowerShell again, when the remoting stuff is way more interesting and powerful. But yeah, for me it was applicable in my job back then because I was an AD admin. Oh, just to be clear, I'm Dutch. So, I'm doing about AD Healthcheck, but ever since Nano came out, and I was waiting for something like this for at least 6 years. So were you, okay. Well, you were working there, right? So, work faster. So, there was a demo about Nano where Nano had 128 megabytes of RAM. So I installed a full-blown GUI, which took 694 megabytes. A GUI install where I removed the GUI afterwards, so back to server core, 325. And then I installed server core natively, 229. So when you install the full-blown GUI, but remove all the GUI features, there's still some leftover in memory apparently. That's for anybody that wants to install server core and thinks, I don't like server core, let's add the GUI. Then you have to actually load the installation media, like back to the XP time with Server 2003. And then comes Nano, 128 megabytes. So for anybody that can read or calculate quickly, Nano is 18% of RAM of full-blown GUI. And that's from what they've just shown us. Me like it. This is just RAM. This is not even disk space. And because they're removing all the binary crap you don't need, I'm guessing it will save a lot of disk space. And who is responsible for buying storage at your company? Yeah, this will save me a lot of money. So, back to AD Healthcheck. Why? Why would I write an AD Healthcheck? Any takers? Certainly because customers do this with their Active Directory. And they handle it like this. And then when I come along and show them, well, your Active Directory isn't really in health, they say, and I'm like, and then they say, yeah, but then you weren't here yet, so it's your fault. And I'm like, so instead of using all those DOS commands every time I get at a customer, I have to log on to a domain controller, use a DOS command, or use PowerShell remoting preferably. Using those DOS commands I don't like. Exporting the data to, let's say, a CSV file or whatever, not the way I want to do it. So that's how it started actually. At Netz-Weise. It's part of the government in the Netherlands that's responsible for all the main roads, but also for fighting off the water. And if you know a little bit about the Netherlands, we're like 60% on the water of the country. So whenever the Rijkswaterstaat fails, we're in serious trouble. They did one time in 1952. Anybody history buff here? We had some water damage, a little. So, a special thanks to my customers, MVPs. Quite a few actually helped me with this. And not knowing they helped me with this. So, thank you. The Powershell community, a very special thanks, both because of the inspiration he gave me, is to a Citrix CTP called Carl Webster. And anybody that does Citrix, he has written a whole bunch of documentation scripts for Zen Desktop, provisioning server, name a Citrix product, and he probably has a documentation script for it. So a few of the Microsoft guys were taking this example, Microsoft guys in the community, not Bruce. And we were like, hey, what you can do with Citrix, we can do with Microsoft stuff. So there right now is DHCP documentation script, Active Directory documentation script, but that's all documentation. That's not a health check. And that's where I differ currently. Getting back to that later. So, the AD health check. The code name was Powerhsell. Why? Well, Powershell script of System Center documentation, because that was my initial intent, System Center. When you make what do you call it? Abbreviation? A what? Acronym, thank you. When you make an acronym out of it and you paste it in Google, it gives you the option possessed. Yeah, let's not do that. Some people don't like that phrase. But when you look at the word, when you make a mirror out of it diagonally, it's almost the same word. Only that the last E is annoying. So replace that with no, and I'm done. So when I started, that's something I learned at school. First think, then script. So these are the fundamentals I started with when I began writing the script. And I never, ever differed from it. There are some features in there, there could have been some features in there that eventually worked in version 1. Because I wasn't able to do it with these fundamentals in mind. So when writing the script, also my knowledge gained exponentially. Works for all domains. Works in Powershell version 2 and above. Works with a few system resources, and it was a lot of testing. Testing like doesn't take a lot of CPU. Doesn't take a lot of IOS or memory. So I tried to level it out and hit the ultimate sweet spot. I tried to. I'm still trying to. And the next ones I love most. It works without administrator privileges. So I can give the script to any user in the company that's allowed to run Powershell script. And it gives them a Word document, which I will show you with a lot of fun information. Because as it seems, when you use LDAP as a user, you can query your entire Active Directory. Reading is allowed. So that's pretty cool. And most admins, AD admins don't know that. And one guy came to me and said, yeah, but that's a terrible security risk. Seriously? I know your sites, your subnets, your IP addresses, your stuff like that. I'm guessing you have a firewall in there somewhere. I'm not really that. So, not really a security risk. So what's checked? I started with users, because at Rijkswaterstaat that was our main problem. We had a thing called Quest Active Directory Restore, what's it called? Basically, a Quest product that can restore specific Active Directory objects. Very useful, very expensive. And it's licensed based on the amount of objects in your Active Directory. Objects. So when apparently HR department disables a user, no problem. They even set an end date on it. They verify again, is the thing disabled after a week. But they do not remove it. So we applied the script. We took that information. We analyzed it. We removed Active Directory users we were not using. And we saved more than 60K 1 week. By that time, my contract got renewed. So they were like, well, maybe this guy has some added value. So, then I started with sites and subnets. Apparently that also was very surprising, because when you make a site link, a site connection, Active Directory does it automatically. So Active Directory, Active AD will figure out how AD is built, in what topology. It will itself create all the connections when needed. What my predecessor did, however, was go to the connections, Control-A, delete, and create them manually. Like, well, I think that the topology should be this. I don't care what Active Directory is telling me, it needs to be this. We had some replication issues. So it took me 3 months to get somebody to approve removing all those manual connections. Eventually he emailed, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, yes, delete. And about a minute later he emailed, oh, wait a second, yeah, too late. So we did it on a Friday afternoon. Me and my colleague who were responsible for AD, we stayed the weekend on the call just to be safe. Active Directory within mere hours corrected itself, no problems. And about a week later, all the replication issues were resolved. Woo! Well, not all of them. It seems there were 10 gigabytes of music files in the sysful. That's not funny. And then we get into the servers and trusts. The servers was not so surprising actually. It was pretty decent. We had one PowerShell line that basically removed 3,600 computer objects because they were obsolete. And it seems that some servers, file servers, have an Active Directory object which they do never update. So my script thought the object was obsolete. We removed them. And it takes about 8 hours for someone to say, so, surprise, surprise, the user terminal server profiles and home DS were on that. Yeah. Oops. With trusts, still trust. A trust has to, when you look at Active Directory, it has 2 critical properties. Ingoing and outgoing. It is, the value is a date. So if the date is older than, what do you say, 3 months? And probably the trust isn't there anymore. So because the Netz-Weise is part of the government, they are trusting every other single government organization out there. And I don't know with your governments, but the governments in the Netherlands tend to change a little every now and then, including the server infrastructure. So we had 176 trusts. We ran the script. Again, that's not funny. That's a lot of work, trust me. Yeah, small country. So we tried contacting all of those departments, and most of those departments were actually phased out. So we were like, well, okay, who did that server maybe go to? So we contacted some of the business guys in Netz-Weise. They were like, guys, these departments, where did they go? And they were like, yeah, good question. So a lot of collaboration, and eventually we were able to remove quite a few trusts. And we didn't break anything, actually. It took us 6 months. Edwin, my AD management colleague, and I had And a thing where we would say every Tuesday and every Thursday we would remove one trust. And that's pretty doable, actually. So, what I found out when scripting and testing this shit like crazy. LDAP plus for each plus where object equals in very specific scenarios. So an error occurred while enumerating through a collection. More data is available. Great! Where's that more data? Oh, do you know? What?
On error.
Yeah, we looked there. Oh well. The solution was not to use for each in the pipeline, but to put all the objects in a variable, which is very memory consuming, by the way. And iterate through it like that, so without a pipeline. It worked beautifully, but you have to really watch out for what to put in memory. So if you do a for each in the pipeline, and after that you put that same object in a variable because you need it there, why? Then it's easier to put it in memory right away, where it's faster in general. Use it from that. But if you put all those objects, let's say 70,000 users, into memory, your ISE will probably have memory uses of 18 gigabytes. In my case, the terminal server guys were contacting me like, dude, what the frick are you doing? I'm testing a little script. Don't do that. So, maximum LDAP query results is default to 1000. You can either change it on the domain controller side, but then you have to be sure, hey, when I do an LDAP query, I want to talk to that domain controller. You can also change it in the LDAP variable property. When you make an LDAP query, put it in a variable. That variable has properties then, and one of them is the query results. Maximum. I'll show you a few minutes in the code. What? Base size. Thank you. Yep. That's why I have the code in a few minutes. I forget things like all the time. But maximum rows in a table. And when you're using Word, Carl Webster, Ian Brighton and I created a template, a script template, which utilizes Word. Version 1. When you have a table, it wrote every single cell, one at a time. It's very expensive and it took a very long time with just a small environment. So then Ian Brighton came along and like, well, why don't you just write the entire string? And let Word figure out the dimensions of the table. Well, like, we can do that. So Ian adapted the script and the performance improvement was nice. Then Powershell version 5 came along, where we got a heads up by the product team that Lee Holmes made some little improvements in the COM object, COM handler. Yes, 500% performance improvement. That's cool. This is something I did a lot of testing with, the version 0.0001 of the script, like the first trial ever. And I was using the commandlets, the Active Directory commandlets, but then I was like, well, if I do this, I'm required to have the Active Directory commandlets there. I don't want that, I don't want module dependency. So, Thank you, get back to that. That's why I love attribution in front. They're like, no! Then I went to ATSI. And ATSI is basically a type accelerator for an LDAP query. That's it. They built a type accelerator around LDAP. And I'll show you the code in a few minutes also. So I was like, well, okay, that's pretty cool. So what if I use, instead of LDAP and create an object, etc., what if I use the native .NET classes? You can also do that, and it's very fast. But you either need to write your own .NET classes, or use the ones from Active Directory. And there's the module dependency again. So I ended up using LDAP. And as Tobias explained, for each is more memory consuming, so it's wrong on the slide, sorry. And for each object is slower. This is a huge oversimplification. There are more than enough scenarios where this is not the case, but because I was using it pretty straightforward, this does. So what I've learned, backwards compatibility is a bitch. So I wrote the script in Powershell version 4 code actually, version 1. And then some tester came along, yeah, I've got a 2008 domain controller, I tried it on there and it doesn't work. So my first thing was, well, don't run it on the domain controller, run it on a desktop. And there you can have the latest and greatest Powershell version. But it didn't point v2. And when I go back at the original fundamentals for the script, v2 was a requirement, so I messed something up. And it was literally on my screen this amount of code that messed things up. I did the new where operator instead of using the pipeline. Luckily, Powershell tells me exactly on what line it goes wrong. So, some other things I've learned, and these are basic questions I've answered while scripting. So, death by PowerPoint yet? I was afraid of that. Duplicate. There we go. No pictures, please. Guess I'm too late for that. So, I started with the Active Directory schema.
Can you zoom in?
Probably. Big enough? Yeah, I'm not running the latest and greatest Windows on my desktop, the laptop, sorry. Yeah, it kind of feels like a desktop, this thing. So, Active Directory has a funny thing. This is part of the Active Directory module. So, on a desktop, you will probably be unable to use this. Where you can get the current schema. Oh, that's nice. What does it look like? Okay, that's it. When you do this, there's no intelligence. So every now and then IntelliSense failed me. Well, this is a whole bunch of information, which is not very interesting. But this is the names of all the schemas. What? All classes. Oh. Correct, all classes. So when I find the class, user, and I look at the mandatory properties, these are the mandatory properties for user object. You need to define those. So password is not required. But if you create a user object in Active Directory without a password, it's disabled. And who thinks you need to give the set account name a value? Not all hands at once, come on! Who thinks this? Yeah, the same as me, you were wrong. Apparently you can create a user object with empty some account name. The problem, you can only do it once. It used to be unique. Thank you.
Just wanted to, does everybody understand what's happening with .name? Because mandatory properties is actually a collection. It doesn't have a property called name. What it has is a collection of things that have a property called name. And so this is what he's done there is equivalent to doing for each object $_name. And so this was a change that was introduced in 3 for workflow, because workflow always returned collections. And so now, when we look for a property, we look for the property on the object directly first. And then if the object doesn't have that property and the object is a collection, then we recurse through the collection and look for the property on the object, which removes a lot of for eaches.
By the way, what was the name?
Automatic unrolling. Automatic unrolling is the name of this technique, I think. At least that's how it was communicated. Das ist übrigens, also was er gerade erzählt hat, diese Änderungen, die in Powershell 3 eingeführt worden sind, ist das Einzige, was man nicht programmatisch feststellen kann. Wenn man also Kompatibilitätschecks in einem Skript macht, hat man keine Möglichkeit, dem Skript syntaktisch anzusehen, ob es Automatic Unrolling hat oder nicht. Und deswegen kann man also alles prüfen gegenüber Powershell 2, ob es kompatibel ist, nur das nicht. Also wenn man das benutzt, dann ist das Skript automatisch nicht mehr kompatibel zu Powershell 2.
So, when some release notes came out for Powershell version 3, that was named. But it was named as one single thingy between this list of features. Mike Robbins, another Powershell MVP, he wrote about this and hey, listen this and this, and it's called implicit for each. And I read that. I was like, hey, cool! So I investigated and made my own blog post with using the name implicit for each. Then June Bender came along and she was like, no, stop it! And she called it member enumeration. And now I hear automatic. It's useful. Okay, the thing Jason did. Let's all tweet that. He goes crazy. So, optional properties are a lot more. You have a method where you can get all the properties, which is nice. I'm not going to count it by hand. There are quite a few properties for a user you can set. And the beauty about Active Directory is that when you think about object-oriented programming, they have an object in Active Directory, any object that has certain properties. Those properties are defined for everything in AD. Then you have a user object that has certain properties. Those mandatory properties, what? Well, I'm getting to that. You're too fast. So based on the user, you've got a person or a contact, or there's a lot of, there's an entire tree in there. And when you start working with classes in .NET, is inheritance in Powershell yet? Will it be? So with Powershell next release, version 5, you will be able to define a class and say, hey, I've got a new class, and this one is derived from the previous class. So it gets all the properties from the previous class, and you only need to define how this class differs from this class. It saves me a lot of code. The problem is when somebody starts editing original classes. And they change stuff, especially when they remove stuff, or add something that's mandatory. Because everything that's derived from that class will be affected by that. How long do I have? Me? So, my current customer is allowing me to write a user and group migration script. So what they want is to give a customer a script, and the script is being executed and spits out two CSV files, one for groups, one for users, with all the properties that are available in Active Directory. If they want to remove something, that's up to them, but they deliver those CSV files to us, and we import them in the hosted environment we created for that customer. So all the user objects with their properties, except for the password, are the same. There are Microsoft solutions out there like DearSync, they can do that, but some of our customers are in the financial world in the Netherlands, and they don't like to actually trust our environment. Don't know why, but we're pretty trustworthy. Trust me. And the reason why I did this is this. These are just a few of the properties, but I'm saying, hey, the name of the property is this, the value in this case is that, but it's a type of system.daytime. Because when you export to a CSV file, the type is lost. It becomes a string. So when you import it and you try to put the string natively into the datetime object, even Powershell can't help you natively with that one. Oh, by the way, the schema thing I showed you, that's something I'm going to use in the next version of the Healthcheck. Because sometimes people start upgrading schemas and not implementing the project, the product. I actually found a few customers where they had SCCM or config manager schema updates, but not the product. That's pretty useless.
Jeff, why did you use page size 100,000?
Just a crazy amount. Crazy high.
Yeah, but this way you only get 1,000. As long as you have the page size 1,000 or less, then you get all. Because then the chunks are less than the 1,000 maximum. The moment you go over 1,000, you don't get back all data anymore.
You just solved the issue of one of my testers. Thank you. So.
Weil an der Stelle, weil das wichtig ist, also wenn man vom über PowerShell was abfragt, kriegt man das immer in Chunks zurück. Und das Page-Size sagt, wie groß die Chunks sein dürfen. Wenn ich da 1 sage, kriege ich immer nur einen Datensatz am anderen, das ist langsam. Wenn ich 1000 sage, kriege ich bis zu 1000 Datensätze in einem Chunk. Mein Active Directory hat als Default-Einstellung aber die maximale Chunkgröße oder maximale Gesamtgröße von 1000. Wenn ich also die Daten bei den 100.000 Konten immer nur in 1000 Chunks abhole, kriege ich alle. Wenn ich aber Page Size zum Beispiel auf 2000 setze, dann wird mir das Active Directory nach 1000 sagen, so mehr gibt es nicht. Ja, also deswegen ist der Trick, einfach Page Size immer auf 1000 zu setzen, dann kriegt man immer alles.
Thank you. You wouldn't believe what a long time that thing has been on my backlog. Like I said, you've got an object category of a user, object class of a person. So the object category, there's multiple classes in there. And when you define only an object category user, you get both persons, but also context. So something to watch out for. If you don't want context but only actual users, query what you want, what you need. So there we go. So this one, it's a little bit the same. But what I found out, when you do other query, you get a whole bunch of information back. Well, each object you query has a properties property, which is filled with a hash table. So my gut feeling was telling me that this was the name of the property, and the value was the value of the property. So I called it like, hey, this is my variable name, dot object category. Like I would call any property. And that filled most of it. So once you know that it's a hash table, you can work with that. But get November. System.directory services.result property collection. That's not a hash table. So it seems Active Directory was kind enough to create their own version. Don't know why. And frankly, I don't care. Once I knew what it was, I can work with that. So here's the same for user persons. This one I found pretty cool. Yeah, user person. Like I said, it's a hash table. When you query only the object itself, it has both the path, so where in Active Directory is the thing located, and all the properties, which you can use beautifully, the path, when you use the type accelerator, etc. So if you know where in your Active Directory the thing is located, you can very easily use the etc type accelerator. A lot less code. Oh yeah, you can put it behind
when you say $_ dot, and then the method gets directory entry. That gets exactly the directory entry. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, so it's not.
So basically, I did a lot of work, but it's totally unnecessary.
Oh yeah, just as good. It's the same thing.
If I can do it shorter, I like it. So that was the code. I'm not running it on this environment because I ran it on another test environment. this is something that's spit out. With the script, the cover page, you can define a company name, in this case Mythos, it's my company. Index, tables, and as you can see, there are no colors. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying, hey, according to my personal best practices, this may be an issue. Like, let's say, for example, the obsolete computer object from a sandbox server. Not a bad thing, necessarily. So this one, GPO orphan GPTs. I only had one customer thus far that had it clean. Any environment so far that's older than 8 years, I find stuff on there that's orphaned. This is not necessarily a thing you will encounter problems because of. Oh. It's not necessarily something you will encounter problems because of, but I've got a little bit of OCD. I find it bloody annoying. So this file is 50K, where I took the top 10 results of any query. Basically, select first 10. I put the item in the pipeline. This is the full report, and this was for users. When you look at the size, I'm guessing the problem was with the users, surprise, surprise. So I'll open this, and in the meantime, we have time for some questions. Especially look at the left bottom where the page count is. Or in the right you will see the scroll bar that will become very, very small. I have a clue. Alexander asked me, why is the report with only the users bigger than the full report? It shouldn't be, really. I'm guessing I done a few testing, and I'm guessing I mixed up the documents. But on the left bottom, one. The problem is this ain't live soon, so 112, it's still counting. And I had one tester that actually managed to break Word. A table both in Word and Excel, depending on the version of Word. In 2010 there's a limit of 65,000 rows in a single table. 32-bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, apparently he was using 32.
In the morning when you install Office, use 32. In general, only use 64 if you need to deal with lots of data.
Okay, so 64. Is there no limit, or is the limit just a lot higher? Okay. So,
Can you repeat, Alexander?
Also die Frage, ich mache es mal auf Deutsch. Die Frage war gerade, er hat gesagt, wenn das ein riesengroßer Report wird, dann hat Word ein Limit bei 65.000 Einträgen im Inhaltsverzeichnis oder in Tabellen. Und daraufhin wurde gesagt, dass genau dafür die 64-Bit-Versionen von Office da sind, die man normalerweise nicht verwenden sollte. Also wir empfehlen nur noch 32-Bit zu verwenden. Aber bei solchen großen Datenmengen nimmt man dann die 64-Bit-Word-Version, die hat dann nur noch das Limit des verfügbaren Speichers, aber keine Zahlenlimits mehr.
So, it's still counting. 194 pages to 100. So, as it seems, Word may not be the best choice for reporting like this. I'll get back to that in a few minutes.
But you said we have time for questions.
Yeah.
So the tool that you're using here to create this report is something that you offer for free, that people can use, and do the same with their own Active Directory and create these reports that really look like you invested many, many hours of time, right?
Yeah. When you go to my blog, there. On the right top, there's a, guess what, Healthcheck thingy. And for the operating system, it runs on Catalan, English, German, Spanish, Danish, Finnish, Norwegian, Swedish, Dutch, French, and Portuguese are supported. This is not work done by me, by the way. It's Carl Webster. That's why I put credit in there. The checks this version has are listed. And the release notes, a signed script with a certificate signed from DigiCert, I believe. Unsigned text file, a zip file, of course. Unsigned zip file, and everything all together in one zip file.
Your question, can you go back
Where to?
to the web page? Where you just were? Oh, you closed it, sorry. Go back to your bottom page. You asked me about this custom object in hash table and the order of properties. Did you solve that yet?
Yeah.
With the audit?
Oh, I saw it, yes. I solved it in version 2 of the script. And that gets me to my next slide. I'll make sure I have these 5 minutes for more questions. So this was my to-do list for version 2. I certainly wanted to include replication issues because that's kind of why I started the thing. And it wasn't even in version 1. So that's quite a bit. So, then I had the encounter of being at one of my new customers, quite large environment for Active Directory and DFS issues, where I found a document, basically a system integrator came along at this customer. The system integrator used my script for free and charged the customer more than 2,000 euros worth. You wouldn't believe how much that pissed me off. So I finished early at the customer at like 1 o'clock. I drove to the system integrator, and that's one of the largest in my country. So I'm a freelancer, I'm just a little bloke. So I stepped into the reception, again, seriously pissed off. And I explained to the receptionist, well, this and this and this, you stole my work, I want to talk to somebody from management right now. And actually I did. So the CEO for the system integrator made time for me. I sat by him, I talked to him, I showed him, I ran my documentation script on the customer side. We compared the documents, and then he got me the script they were using. By the time I removed all the comments from my version of the script, we could scroll like this. It was the same. So I don't do naming and shaming, so I will not mention them because we resolved it. They are not asking money anymore. What I do like is first keep the credits in there, because I don't only give myself credits, but others too. The guy that actually, the techie that did this, was kindly reprimanded. He contacted me and apologized, so for me, great. They can run the script at the customer, and they can charge them for the hours they need to fix what the script has shown them. That I don't mind, that's why you're a system integrator. So, this woke me up. And I decided to learn C# and some other languages to help me, and start creating a licensed product called Monk. Because back in the old days, those were the guys describing stuff and documenting and defining best practices. I'll start with documenting, and anything underlined I will do first. Then come the best practices, and after that analyzing what, I applied that, I queried the best practices to an environment half a year ago. I do it again, and I want to analyze what has changed, what has fixed, what hasn't been. Anything that's not underlined is something I would like to do, but there's only so much hours in a day and I kind of need sleep. Any questions? The product isn't finished yet. Version 1 will be released this year, probably around Christmas.
Ja, gibt es irgendwelche Fragen? Super. Jeff, thank you very much. Especially thank you very much for offering that great work in the current version for free. Ich denke, jeder hat auch gehört hier von der Geschichte, dass wenn man freie Ressourcen anbietet, dann ist natürlich jeder herzlich eingeladen, die zu nutzen. Aber es ist eben wäre nicht fair, sie unter seinem Namen weiter zu verkaufen. Man kann sie nutzen. Wenn man sie irgendwo verwendet, muss man eben darin auch die Copyright- und Credit-Dinge drin lassen. Sonst wird er immer sauer. Das ist ja auch nicht mehr.
Transcript will remain available on my website, so go ahead, use it, adapt it, whatever you like. Oh, and within 3 weeks I will throw it up on GitHub, so anybody can contribute.
Das ist super, haben wir ja auch schon von Bruce gestern gehört, dass sich Open Source immer mehr durchsetzt. Dann kann also jeder dort quasi mitmachen. Wunderbar, gut, okay. Thank you very much, Jeff.